Before we get started today, I just want to say as a bit of a warning that I am quite stuffed up and sniffly. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling too well at the moment. Hopefully, we'll be back to fighting form in the next few days. Been suffering most this week, but it's really hitting me at the moment. So, my apologies in advance for sounding not my usual sparkling self. However, there's some Nintendo stuff today. Now, of course, there's been a lot of focus on the company's future lately since the reveal of the Switch. You know, what's going to happen with the console, how's it going to affect the company, what games are going to come out, yada yada yada. But how about I look back at how they did for the period ending in December. They have reported a quarterly profit for that period, and it's rather impressive to say the least. They have reported a 64.7 billion yen profit, which is about $569 million, on revenue of 174.3 billion yen, which is again $1.5 billion. Now, in the previous quarter, they were actually at a loss of 57.1 million, so to come back to this rather impressive profit is quite the bounce back. However, revenue was down 22% year on year. However, Nintendo still beat the expectations of analysts, and they also raised their expected profit for their annual financial report, which is actually due in May, to 19 billion yen, which is 791 million, from 50 billion yen, which is 440 million. Now, for quite some time, the 3DS has really been the torchbearer for Nintendo. It's been doing really well in terms of sales. For a while, it even beat the PS4 and Xbox One in hardware sales, which is no small feat, rather. And unfortunately, it's starting to sputter a little bit. However, they saw pretty massive success with Super Mario Run, which of course their first real game for smartphones, which had 78 million downloads. However, do keep in mind that you could play it for free up until a certain point, and only 5% of those opted to pay for the full version, which is again $10. But 10% of 78 million is still quite the tiny little profit for Super Mario Run. However, staying on the 3DS bit for a second, of course, the main thing on that console is undoubtedly Pokemon. And Pokemon Sun and Moon came out last year to pretty good reviews, and I've been playing it myself. It is one of the best Pokemon games I've played in years, and it of course did quite well for itself. And Nintendo said that since the launch back in November, combined they have sold 14.669 million sales, which is not at all bad, and very well deserved for Pokemon Sun and Moon. I've got the Sun version myself, and again, it's one of the best Pokemon games I've played in years. It's just a really, really good game. Narrowly missed out on my Game of the Year list, but it was definitely a contender. Of course, Pokemon Go is partially to thank for this, as Nintendo have said before that, you know, despite the game not being half as popular as it once was, it has still helped not only reignite interest in the series from fans who perhaps haven't played in a while, it undoubtedly got people into Pokemon mainline games who hadn't really played a Pokemon game before. You know, they had directly reported increased sales of Pokemon X and Y and Omega Ruby and so on when Pokemon Go was at its peak, and undoubtedly a few of those players did go on to buy Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, unsurprisingly for the Wii U, things weren't quite so peachy, but given that console never really did brilliantly, and of course we just had the reveal of the Switch, it's not exactly surprising that they only sold 0.76 million units in the last quarter, which is down 75% year on year. And also, the game sales were also down 45% to 12.48 million. However, Nintendo did say that the Wii U's performance, quote, conformed to our expectations. And basically, you know, they weren't, you know, having their head in the clouds about the expectations of the Wii U. They were fully awake to the fact that, you know, the console wasn't doing brilliant to begin with, and now that people know the Switch is coming out in March, you know, unless perhaps they're not all that interested in the launch lineup for the Switch, which of course many people aren't, they're not really thinking about buying a Wii U right now. Of course, as we go into the new financial year and the new year in general, a lot of focus for not only Nintendo but for gamers and the community is on the Switch. Nintendo have said previously, of course, that they expect to sell 2 million units by the end of March, and analysts are predicting about 10 to 11 million units in the 12 months following that. However, Nintendo have said that the Switch will be profitable from the start. This is, of course, something that Kimishima has said in the past, and it was also confirmed by Yuji Nakamura, who is the Bloomberg tech reporter over in Tokyo. So all in all, Nintendo did rather well for itself and has bounced back rather nicely from a nasty drop into the loss of the previous quarter. So, of course, we are looking to the future now, and it's very much going to be upon the Switch's shoulders to see if they can maintain this move back into profit. Of course, I think a lot of that is going to depend on not only the launch lineup, but just generally the lineup of games for the Switch. At the moment, in my opinion, the lineup for the Switch is poor. I've spoken to numerous people that I know that have a Wii U, like, do you want to buy a Switch at launch? And they're like, well, no, because I can get Zelda for the Wii U, so why would I? And to be honest, that's a valid point. That's definitely going to be a concern for a lot of Wii U owners. Now, of course, I've mentioned many times how the Wii U didn't do brilliantly, so, you know, while that's a concern for a fair chunk of people, it's not going to be a concern for everyone who's buying a Switch, because a lot of those people probably just didn't get a Wii U for whatever reason. But it still is going to be a concern. And, of course, there's not really what I would call a system seller other than Zelda at launch. Yes, there's Splatoon 2, but that's like in the summer or the spring, something along those lines, can't quite recall off the top of my head. And of course Mario, but that's not till the holidays. You know, in between those, it's like, okay, what is there? Okay, you've got some cool sounding games that are coming out at some point in spring, summer, etc. But it's really going to come down to the third-party games, as well as, of course, the first-party games. You know, Nintendo have one of the best libraries of IPs out there, to be honest. So they have a lot to lean back on, but they need to bring it out in full force to really make the Switch a good value proposition. And one of the things they can do, at least in my opinion, is really get in the swimming pool of indie games and get like the good indie games on that system. Yes, you're probably getting people who have a PS4 or Xbox One or sometimes even a PC on your Switch, which may or may not already have these indie games on that system, but it still is an extra value proposition to be like, oh, you know that cool indie game that so-and-so website was like raving about a few months ago? You can play that, you know, you can play Super Hot, you can play Shovel Knight, you can play Owlboy, whatever. Just a few names off the top of my head. And while they're not going to shift units by themselves, it still increases the value proposition of like, oh, I can get these really cool indie games. There's a huge library of indie games on this system that I can play on the go, which, to be honest, the thought of playing something like Owlboy on the go, I mean, that just sounds perfect to me. It very much increased my enjoyment of my train journey, I'll tell you that much. But of course, it really comes down to the big system seller, big budget AAA games, and how many of those we're going to get from third parties. It's going to have to remain to be seen. I don't think we're going to be getting any like current generation ones. We might get a few games rather from a few years ago, but again, this is all purely speculation and I'm starting to ramble. So I should probably just call the video there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. You will find the source article from Bloomberg in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.